Okay, so in this video, I'd like to walk you through a my realistic best case scenario for Donald Trump in this 2024 November 5th election that's coming right around the corner. We've got 2 days left. And this is based on the latest polling uh, data. Now, while there are some states where Donald Trump has no realistic chance in pulling it off due to strong partisan divides, certain states may still be within his reach if everything aligns perfectly on election night. Now, this is, of course, a hypothetical scenario, but it proves insight into the areas where Trump might perform really well. So let's go through this. Now, if everything goes well, as well as possible for Donald Trump, Trump's electoral count could reach as high as, get this, 343. Now, I haven't mapped this out perfectly, but this scenario does reflect every state where he might have an outside shot. Okay, now my own prediction has him at 312 with coverage of all the standard swing states, which currently, by polling standards today, we could all say that in the aggregate, leaning towards Trump. Now, the best case scenario, however, pushes his total well beyond 312. Taking into account states that could lean in his favor if conditions are, again, idealistic. Now, for example, Washington remains out of reach. We all know that Washington is just not one of those states that I think really ever has a chance to be red in any best case scenario. Trump would still lose by a substantial margin there, though perhaps with a smaller deficit than in 2022 because he is gaining momentum virtually everywhere. Similarly, in Oregon, the best case scenario would be, again, just a closer loss, maybe within 5 or 6 points. A margin than back in 2020. Despite some of the optimistic polling there, I still do firmly believe Oregon is just a no-go. Now, states like California and Hawaii, very similar. There's no play there. Trump could do is narrow the margins of the loss. Now, in states like Alaska, however, Trump should win comfortably, potentially expanding his margin to 12 to 13 points, which should put Trump over and have him lead and take Alaska very comfortably. Now, states like Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming and Nebraska are securely in Trump's column. That's a W for Trump. In Nebraska's 2nd district, though, Harris is expected to win. That's due to some demographic shifts. There has been a mass exodus in California, and some people actually ended up in Nebraska. Now, despite Trump's previous success there in 2016, because of this demographic shift, I do see that part of Nebraska leaning more left in Harris's favor. Now, in Texas, a strong best case outcome could be an 8 or 9 point victory, actually, for Trump. Though the demographic shifts and recent trends have made it increasingly competitive, that the Lone Star State is Trump to have. And I think that's without question. Okay. Now, maintaining or slightly improving his lead where he could help counter any of the narratives in Texas, moving towards being a purple state, has been questioned and it's been talked about, but let's just say comfortably Texas is Trump. Now, moving west, the best case scenario could include a narrow win in New Mexico, where Trump has recently campaigned, hinting at a passable path forward, okay, with New Mexico moving towards red. However, Colorado appears out of reach due to the increasing, again, liberal migration, making an even closer loss unlikely. Now, in Nevada and Arizona, a best case scenario could mean a 3 to 6 point win for Trump in each, with strong indications that he will likely carry these states. Now, turning to the Midwest, Trump has a slim chance in Minnesota, though states like Virginia and New Hampshire might be more viable in this scenario. Polling suggests that New Hampshire could lean towards Trump, given its independent voter base. In states like Illinois, New York, and New Jersey, best case scenarios could reduce the margin of loss, but flipping these reliably Democratic states is highly unlikely. Now, even if Trump significantly reduces his deficit in New York, the state's liberal lean makes a win really quite implausible. Now, in the Rust Belt, which includes Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Minnesota, best case scenario could yield narrow victories across all three states, with Trump performing particularly well in Pennsylvania. Although there are polls showing close margins, these are competitive states, okay? And a Trump win here is plausible, but it's a little uncertain. But I'll take our chances there. Maine and Nebraska's second district are wild card regions for sure. Trump could potentially win Maine at large, although he is expected to carry only the second district with certain. Now the rest of New England, including Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts, remains out of reach. Okay, let's just forget about those states. Overall, this best case scenario presents Trump with a 347 electoral votes, including possible slim wins in Virginia, New Hampshire, Minnesota, and New Mexico. Oregon might be within reach only if margins close significantly, and a total win in Illinois is unrealistic. Now, this high point scenario would indeed be a landslide with a potential 3 to 4% popular vote lead nationally. While this scenario is speculative, it does highlight Trump's potential in key states and the regions where he could see narrow but pivotal signs for gain if conditions align perfectly. Now, you guys, we are 2 days out from election. I hope to get in another analysis, hopefully by tomorrow. And hopefully we can see this thing through and wake up November 6th. Happy Patriots, seeing Trump back in the Oval Office. I'll see you then.